What is going on, Grinders? It's Chief. We are in the building. It is Sunday, and we are here for the Sunday Night Showdown. Usually when it's me and Tim, we have another T on the other side. We call it a TWT weekend, but not today. It's just Tim. It's just Will. It's Chief. It's TastefulTides. Tim, how's it going?
Chief, we are fired up. I mean, we have not done a showdown show together probably since last football season.
Last year,
I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited to break this down with you. This is going to be, I think it's going to be a really awesome game, just for, watching. And then for, DFS, there are several different ways you go about building lineups today, which is a lot of fun. Even if you're just a single entry guy like myself, like there's a lot of ways that you can go about playing the slate.
For sure. I agree 100%. And Tim, I do want to ask you this question. And we're just going to kick this whole slate. Like, we're just going to dive right in. Like, we're diving right into the slate. And here's my big question for this showdown slate. What or how are you treating Patrick Mahomes tonight? Because the word on the street is there's no Pacheco. Mahomes is going to turn back into, first and second year Mahomes. He's throwing for 300. He's going to have 3 or 4 passing touchdowns. And I don't know, Tim. I'm not saying he's not. I'm saying they seem to have committed themselves to having some form of a run game and not just, I'm going to air quote here, letting Patrick Mahomes cook. So, right. Tim, what is your approach with Mahomes tonight? We'll start there and then we'll branch out and get into to some of the other ingredients for this slate.
I guess I'm not as bullish as maybe the general public is on Mahomes, turning the clock back and throwing the ball 35 to 40 times. Not saying that it can't happen, but it's definitely not something that I'm not necessarily looking to put Mahomes in the captain spot. But if you think he's going to throw the ball 35, 40 times, he's a captain play. He's not a flex play, right? I mean, that's just like, if you're gonna go down that way, you got to play him at captain and you got to pair him with multiple receivers. Personally, I think that they're going to work in a couple of these running backs. To be honest with you, I don't think they're just going to abandon the run just because Pacheco's out, even though that is a huge loss for this team. I think that it's not going to change too much in terms of overall pass rate and overall run rate. So I'm not a part of that crowd, I guess I'd say.
Okay. And I'm glad I went to get that perspective from you. I mean, according to the Blitz does have Mahomes throwing it about 40 times tonight, 39.5 to be exact, Tim. Now, I don't know. Look, here's the thing. The Blitz is just a projection system. It's a good projection system. RG projections are fantastic. Like, we use all these things to help us make decisions. I do like Mahomes. I do think the game is interesting. Clearly, one of the things that the Blitz values is playing in a dome, Tim. And so now that we've kind of got the Mahomes portion out of the way, the game in general, the total's 46.5. I think from a fan perspective, we want to see gunslinger Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes go back and forth and keep throwing haymakers. Realistically, I don't know if that's actually going to happen, Tim. Like just back and forth. I think one of these teams, gets in control of the game and maybe the other team has to catch up. And so I think it slows one of these offenses down, to be quite honest with you. Hear me out, Tim. I think the Falcons get out in this game a little bit. And Kansas City has to then try to put together some scores here. I saw a little something from the Falcons. Hopefully Kirk Cousins is getting better and better each week with this new regime. And I also think the Falcons, as constructed today, have a much better run game. And so I think that could slow the game down some. That's my read on this slate, Tim. I know Vegas is leaning in the champs' direction, as they should. But Falcons at home, coming off a big win against the Eagles, I think they're going to be ready to play football. That's the fan portion, not the statistical portion. What are your thoughts for the game overall?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why, telling yourself a story in Showdown is so important. Like predicting and trying to predict game script. Like if you're imagining a scenario where the Falcons get up, say a touchdown or greater, then that would lead to that very bullish case about the Patrick Mahomes attempts, because they'd be forced to throw the ball and abandon the run. So if that's kind of like where you're thinking that this is going to go, I mean, the Chiefs are only 3-point favorites. It's completely within the realm of possible that the Falcons get up a touchdown or more. And if that's the case, then you have to think of, ways that would affect the other side, and of course that would lead to Mahomes having to throw more targets, probably for Rice, for Kelsey, perhaps more like gadgety type plays for Xavier Worthy. So I think it really just depends on. I'm kind of predicting maybe I'm just being too normal here and too chalky. I'm not sure, but like I'm expecting kind of like a pretty tight game, kind of almost like a playoff atmosphere type game. So I don't really want to go that Patrick Mahomes a captain route, but if you think the Falcons are going to get out ahead, then I have no issue with Mahomes a captain at all.
Okay, let me ask you this, Tim. Last thing, and then we'll start actually talking about the captains. What if I told you on the season so far? And this is very interesting here. On the season so far, Kansas City, we're only 2 games in. I get it. They are the second highest passing yard defense, meaning they're the second worst defense. Baltimore was at dead last. Kansas City is next at giving up 256.5 passing yards per game. I know that's like the simple stat stuff. I get it. But I do look at it for football just to get some perspective on how these defenses actually are, because I think people feel like the Spagnuolo defense has been really good. And then I pull these numbers up through the first couple of games, Tim, and I see that they're getting gashed through the air. I'm bringing that up because one of my favorite captains is going to be Drake London and Kyle Pitts tonight, along with Kirk Cousins in the flex. Now we're in the captain talk here, but I'm very interested in these guys if the Chiefs are, in fact, going to be giving it up through the air. Who's your favorite captain? I think Rashee Rice is like the obvious. I think Rashee Rice is the right answer. Let me say that. I think Rashee Rice is the right answer. But if I want to pull in a millie by myself, I like the Falcons passing game. Handing it over to you, Tim. What do you think?
Yeah, I think my favorite captain perhaps is it's either going to be Rice or it's going to be Bijan, one of the two. I haven't quite decided yet. I like both of them quite a bit. If one of them is definitely going to be my flex, the other one's going to be my captain. I think Rice has just been fantastic. He's obviously Mahomes' favorite target. Now that Kelsey's kind of getting a little bit older. Obviously no Hollywood Brown. And Xavier Worthy is not like a high volume guy. So it's really Rashee Rice who's the target hound on this Chiefs team. So I do agree with you. He is going to be the highest owned probably at the captain. So to get different, I just don't really want to go Drake London. I get it that it's an ownership thing. I don't know. I don't love it. I was projected for 6%. I'd almost rather go Kirk Cousins at lower ownership, pretty much the same price, and then just sprinkle in some of these cheaper Atlanta wide receivers in your flex. That's probably what I do if I didn't want to play Mahomes, Bijan, or Rice at captain, because those three are the 3 highest owned at captain, and then there's a humongous gap after that. Every other captain is going to be really, really low owned after those 3. So I think if I didn't want to play any of those 3, I'd probably go Kirk Cousins at captain and then spread out and then put in flex some of these cheaper Atlanta wide receivers.
Yeah, I totally get that. Let me say this too. I was in the camp, and it's still early, Tim, so I know that. Like, I've been in the camp that Ray McCloud isn't going to keep getting like this volume because he's not on the field that much. Like, eventually, this offense has to like get back to what I feel like are the pillars, which is Bijan, Pitts, and London. Like, at some point, they've got to soak up all of the or most of the production. And through a couple weeks here, we're seeing Ray McCloud get real volume in his offense, Tim. And I'm bringing that up because you're talking about Kirk Cousins and then like some of his secondary receivers. Ray McCloud is picking up more ownership than Kyle Pitts tonight, projected. Xavier Worthy, close to Carson Steele, more than Mooney, more than P. Ryan. Like, he's, at least from a projection standpoint, at 3,600, he's picking up 28.4%, which to me says somewhere between 26 and 30. And I feel like that's the right call. How comfortable are you, taking a stand on a 3.6K guy at wide receiver who, once again, is getting real volume, but still we're just 2 weeks in?
Depends on how you build the rest of your team. Like I was talking about, if you want to go like Rice, Mahomes, or Bijan at captain, and then you play McLeod and flex, it's going to be a really hard time for you to make a unique and bank like the 300K. It's going to be really hard to do that. But if you build like a Cousins at captain, right, who's going to be like 5% in the captain spot, and then you pair him with a chalky McLeod in flex, I think that's a way better play. I mean, for lack of a better term, Ray McCloud is like a cash game play, right? And we don't play cash in Showdown. He's going to get really, really steamed in single entry because he's an every down player. He's getting production. He's getting targets. He's too cheap. So anyone who's hand building are going to use him. Anyone using an optimizer is going to use him. So just be very careful about who else you're building into that team, because it really depends on the rest of your team, how you play Ray McCloud tonight.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that, Tim. I think how you build your team is for sure the right call. And if you want to build better lineups, folks, guess what? You need to get your hands on RG Premium. You can get yourself a 6-month combo subscription at an exclusive price of $469.99. That's a savings of $250 instead of buying the 6 individual months of combo premium. If you're not a fan of commitment, you want to just take us out on a date and see how you like it, you can get a month of RG combo premium for $120. And for those of you that want to swipe left or swipe right or just speed date, you can get a test run, dip your toes in the water with the 3-day pass for $19.99. Check the link in the description below. All right, Tim, here we go. I think we've already established that we feel like, or at least I feel like, and I think you do too, Rashee Rice is the obvious captain. Anybody else sneaky at captain? TJ and myself usually call it spicy. Anybody else that you want to sneak in there that could be a differentiator to help someone take down a Millie solo?
I think Xavier Worthy would be the spicy one, just because he's not a high volume guy at all. But I mean, he's a high ceiling, extremely low floor type play. He's going to get basically no ownership at captain. So let me just see real quick what he's going to get. 5%.
He's only picking up projected 25% ownership for the slate, which is actually really good for this slate.
Yeah, so I don't really like to play Xavier Worthy in any other format but Showdown because, like I said, he's not a high volume guy, but they run specific plays for him to have explosive upside because he's so fast. So he's not a high volume target earner. But if you want a spicy captain, I think it's Xavier Worthy, just because he has such explosive upside.
I love that call, Tim. And I'm bringing it back to the Mahomes situation one more time. It's amazing how Pacheco's the one out, but we're more interested in Mahomes than the run game. Now, Carson Steele is going to pick up some ownership, but in all of our minds, Tim, we're saying, hey, Mahomes is getting unleashed. Well, what if it's the Carson Steele unleashing? Tim, clearly we think Bijan is the lead running back on this slate, but guess what? He's the most expensive piece on this slate. And how much Bijan do we want to get in? We've got Steele down here at 6,400. We've also got a Samaje Perine at 5,400. I actually think there's more uncertainty between that backfield than the Falcons backfield. So I'm fine with Bijan. I still think he's getting a lot of ownership to be the most expensive piece. What are your thoughts on Bijan? And then let's talk about this split backfield of Steele and Perine.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously love Bijan. I'm probably not going to use him in the captain. He's projected to be the third highest owned captain. I would rather you use a Kansas City player or use Cousins as like a low-owned captain, because I personally think that the Chiefs are going to handle this game pretty well. So I don't think Bijan's going to necessarily hit his like touchdown upside. With TDs, and you need that if you're going to play him a captain. So, yeah, I mean, he's not going to be a captain play for me, but I would have no issue if people wanted to get overweight him in the flex. And then talking about the Kansas City backfield, I think it's going to be Carson Steele. I think he's gonna out carry Samaje Perine. We have that projected. I think we have. Yeah, we've got Steele for 10.7 rush attempts versus Perine's 5.5 rush attempts. So we have about double the rushes for Steele. So I think they're going to try out Steele like early on in this game, Chief. And then if it doesn't work out, they're going to abandon him. But I think they're going to give him a lot of opportunities at the beginning of this game. And I think he's going to do pretty decently. So I think he hangs on to his spot for the whole game. But if he doesn't do well at the start, they might just abandon him.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. And even though Perine hasn't been with the Chiefs, we've seen Perine like with real NFL action. And so he is a guy that can operate in the running game and the passing game, Tim. I definitely think he will be involved in the passing game. Because I don't see them keeping Steele out there, giving him a bell cow workload, especially if this game goes how I think, and they might have to pass this ball a little bit more down the stretch of the game, Tim. So I think I'm going to lean Samaje Perine over Steele currently because of the pass game activity. But once again, that's just me we're splitting hairs here. I don't really trust these guys.
We're talking about two different game strips. Like you're saying you think Atlanta's going to get out in the lead, whereas I don't. So you want the better pass catching back in Perine, which makes total sense if that's the game script that you want. So I mean, it's really, really good showdown play, really, if you think Kansas City's going to be coming from behind.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else at running back like an Algier that you're interested in? I mean, I almost feel like Algier is a little bit too expensive, but once again, sometimes he pops. And I thought when the old coach headed out of the door that they weren't going to give Algier 10 rushing attempts a game, and then lo and behold, last week he comes out and he's popping for close to 10 rushing attempts again. Maybe the role is real. We'll see as we get down to the season. But how do you feel about Algier at 5,200 as kind of a sneaky running back play that's really not getting as much ownership as some of these other guys, only at around 10%?
I think he's way too expensive for what his projections are. We have him projected for 6 rushing attempts and 1 target. That for me just is not enough for 5,200. And I think so people are going to play him too. He's going to get some ownership. So there are other plays that are cheaper and right around his same exact price tag that are coming in better projected, similarly owned. I'm personally would not get to a lot of Algier tonight in an MME setting.
Okay, sounds good. Question, or I'm done with running back. I'm actually going to skip over wide receiver. I'm going to move to tight end, Tim, because so here's my deal. I actually think, and I've said this on multiple shows today. Well, a show today, but also I think I talked about it on the Blitz show. I actually think Travis Kelce is like sneaky good on this slate tonight. And I've talked about I feel like our sentiment, like as fans and as DFS players, because of the first 2 weeks, I'm going to use the young phrase, Travis Kelce's dust, Tim. Like, he doesn't exist anymore. He can't produce at a high level. Like, this is Rashee Rice's team now. And I don't disagree that Rice is the main guy. I don't disagree with that. He is younger. But if we think Travis Kelce is suddenly going to be relegated to 2 or 3 targets, 4 targets a game over the course of a whole season, when they just paid him gave him a pretty substantial extension, Tim, I just can't see that being the long-term solution for this offense. I think Travis Kelce finds ways, or they find ways to get him involved tonight. You know, if there's one person I think was going to benefit the most, to me, it wasn't Carson Steele. It was Travis Kelce. But once again, Tim, I could be absolutely wrong. That is my opinion. There's no fact behind that. But I do like the angle. How are you feeling about Travis Kelce tonight when the whole industry, or not the whole industry, but a lot of people are thinking he's been phased out of this offense?
Well, when you asked for a spicy captain and I said Xavier Worthy, I was really surprised I didn't say Travis Kelce, because they're both right around the same price and same projected captain ownership. So if you want to play him, like, I think you should play him a captain as another spicy captain, because nobody's going to play him at all at the captain spot. He's going to be around 30% owned in the flex, but I say gamble on his ceiling. Don't gamble on him having 5 for 60 or something like that. Have him gamble on him getting 12, 105 and 1, right? If I'm going to play him, I want to play him for his absolute ceiling. So I would personally rather play him at captain than at flex. But I would agree with you. Industry sentiment on him is extremely bearish. He is dust to us now, and he very well might not be dust. So this might be a good time to play him. But I still think he's a better captain play than a flex play.
Yeah. I plan to have him in both. Actually, Tim, just to make it clear, I like him in both. But playing multiple lineups gives me the option to do that. Anybody else at tight end that you want to talk about? Clearly, we've got Kyle Pitts on the other side, and seemingly his role hasn't changed much with the switch over for Kirk Cousins. But he's another one, Tim, where it could possibly turn here as Kirk Cousins gets more comfortable. Kyle Pitts is getting a little bit of a discount from Kelce. How are you feeling about Pitts and anybody else at tight end?
So I don't really have much interest in Kyle Pitts. I'm tired of chasing this supposedly good tight end. If he beats me, he beats me. I'd much rather find the 1,200 for Kelce. That's just my opinion. Obviously, I can be way off. Noah Gray is one of my favorite punts on the entire slate at 2,600. I also think he's really good, maybe a price point pivot off of Ray McLeod. So I really love Noah Gray in this spot. We had a question in chat: Justin Watson or Noah Gray. I think it's Noah Gray, even though Justin Watson is a couple decimal points higher projected, but I prefer Noah Gray, and he's $200 less than Justin Watson, so that's who I like at tight end. Charlie Warner, if you really want to get crazy, he's $800. He could get conceivably a couple targets, so that's a really, really large field play though.
Yeah, Charlie Warner. I mean, I get it, and I agree with you. Definitely large field. Tim, you and I usually agree on this. I think we're going to agree tonight, or at least I hope so. I don't ever play defense. The one slate that defense helps you win the millie, I just lose. That's how I view it, Tim. Obviously you can always get a pick six, but I mean, even with that, you could end up with 8 points from your defense because both teams scored 35 points. Like I just don't play defense for Showdown. Are you playing any defense?
Probably not tonight. There are certainly nights like the other night I played the Jets defense for sure.
Oh well, yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So I think there's some merit to like having some exposure to defenses, but really in like 3 max, I'm not getting to any defense at all. If I was playing like 20 teams, maybe I get to like 1 or 2 of one for the Falcons, one's for the Chiefs. I certainly wouldn't make any like double defense lineups. I think that's just too crazy for this slate.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. All right, Tim, kickers. Are you playing any of the kickers? I for one, have an affection for Younghoe Koo. Whenever he's on a slate, the Falcons especially at home, they tend to just, if they're close, I think they're going to let him kick it. Same thing for Butker. Like both of these teams trust their kickers. So I think both kickers are in play today. What say ye?
Yeah, kickers are so boring, but they're often really, really strong plays. This game is being played in a dome. They're both really, really good kickers themselves. Butker is my preferred kicker over Koo, but I mean, either one is fine. I would imagine that, like you said, they trust their kickers, which is huge. These teams don't play like the Lions. They actually kick field goals on 4th down. So I have no issue either one. So yeah. I don't mind kickers. I think they're fine. It looks like Butker is going to be pretty lower owned than Koo. We've got Koo for 19.3 and we've got Butker for 13. So I would prefer to go the lower owned one and the team that's the favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. But I do like both of these guys for what it's like a great deal too. I'd love to get some sort of a Moody game from one of these guys tonight, Tim. Moody just kind of nuked the slate on that San Francisco game. I think he kicked, 4 or 5 field goals or something. I mean, it was something crazy for Showdown. He ended up with 20 plus points as a kicker. And that on those plays where the kicker gets you 20 plus, they're optimal, like guaranteed. No way they don't make the list. And I think one of these kickers could at least get you, somewhere between 12 and 15 tonight, Tim. And I think that might be enough to get you in the optimal lineup. So last but not least, we've danced around receiver. Like we talked about Rice. We've talked about London. I just felt like receiver just gave us more options when you've got Mooney and you've got, McLeod and, Watson versus Gray and there's some low end guys that I just took out, Tim, like Sky Moore. Like I'm not playing Sky Moore. I don't care what's going on. Like he's not making any lineups for me. But we've kind of talked about the top end. Anybody on the outside looking in that you may want to discuss at kicker?
You mean at wide receiver?
At wide receiver, sorry. I said kicker, I meant wide receiver. Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, all good. I like Noah Gray, but Justin Watson's completely fine. I think do you have any Juju, Will?
Oh, I don't, Tim. I don't like it, but I tried to condense to get rid of some of these. Look, like if I'm going to choose between Juju, Gray, and Watson, like Juju's the guy I'm getting rid of. I will have Watson.
Yeah,
and Gray.
Out of those 3, I would get rid of Juju. I think if you wanted to get really crazy and you needed the salary, Daryl Hodge for $200. He's projected for, almost 2 points, which for $200 is actually pretty darn good. And he's not going to be owned at all. So I think if I'm looking for like a cheapy Atlanta, he's the guy.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Sky Moore. I just don't have any interest in playing him at all. Never considered him. I have not considered Casey Washington either. He would be an exclude button for me. McCole Hardman, same thing. He'd be an exclude button for me also. So I guess Hodge would be like the cheapest I'd go. And then, like I said, Gray's my favorite of the value guys. Then Watson.
Yeah, I mean, look, I agree with that 100%. Like, I just don't see. So, Tim, that's another thing for me with Showdown, and I will move on. Like, I don't play everyone just to play everyone. Like, if I don't think they're just gonna, if they're gonna be a zero in my lineup, like, I'm getting rid of them. And sometimes that means, like last week, Tim. Sometimes that means I end up with a little bit too much Ray McLeod, but it's because it's Showdown, and sometimes I have to eat a little bit more of someone that I didn't like. I made a mistake last week, Tim, and I'm bringing that up for a reason. I promise this all makes sense. I didn't play any Britton Covey, and that probably held me back from picking up, a few extra dollars in the Showdown because he had like 6 catches for 10 yards. And I'm not exaggerating. I think it was like 6 for 18 or something like that, or 20, whatever it was. But, sometimes those little receivers will come back to bite you. Totally different situation there. In this case, Sky Moore may not get 2 targets. So I just don't see – he may not get 1, Tim. So my point is, like, don't put in guys that aren't going to have a shot at being productive. All right, Tim, we've come down. I'm going to try to answer some questions while I'm headed to the live stream chat. Tim, if you want to discuss anything FanDuel related, please be my guest because obviously there's no salary penalty for that site. And so while I'm headed to live stream, if you've got anything that you want to talk about there, let me know. And then when you're done with that, I will fire up the questions. And I am in the live stream chat right now. If anybody wants to drop anything in there, drop it in, and then we'll head to the YouTube chat.
So obviously FanDuel is way more touchdown dependent. So maybe Mahomes makes sense at MVP over on FanDuel. A guy like Bijan also I like quite a bit because he can get TDs through the air and on the ground. So Mahomes, then Bijan would be my 2 favorite MVPs. Value's very, very thin on FanDuel. I don't mind some of these flyers, but like Noah Gray at 7K. Is probably my favorite of the value. It's like some of these guys are, I don't know, it's really tough in terms of value. So I would be focusing on Noah Gray, Butker at 9K. But really, I would take a heavier emphasis on QBs and MVP or bell cow running back like Bijan.
Got it. Sounds good. That's what I think I'd be doing on FanDuel also, because here's the difference between FanDuel and DraftKings. As you all know, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. Like, the raw points are going to matter at the MVP at the end of the day. Whereas on DraftKings, if the salary differential between the highest scorer and the optimal MVP captain, Tim, like if you get a 7K guy that's 7K in the flex, but that means in the captain he's 8,500, whatever it is. A little bit more than that. But either way, like, if he scores 30 fantasy points, like, even if Mahomes scores 30, it won't matter, right? Because that guy's salary allows you to get so many other people in the flex. So I'm headed. We're going to start asking some questions here. I am heading to the live stream chat. And I've got this is from Carolina Guy. What's up, Chief Justice? Great win for your Panthers. I'm not too sure about that. Now, actually, it was a great win. Shout out to Andy Dalton. I may need to be ordering an Andy Dalton jersey right now, even though he probably won't be there for very long. Favorite GPP FanDuel large field MVP to win it all. Also favorite low-owned flex. For me, I think if I'm going MVP on FanDuel, I think I am going Mahomes because of how I think the game is going to go. And then my favorite, low-owned flex, I think if I had to choose one, it's probably Ray McLeod, because I don't think he's going to get as much ownership on FanDuel as DraftKings, because he probably will need a touchdown to get there, but perhaps he gets in the box. All right, back to those questions in the live stream chat. And I think it was a similar question. Sorry about that. Trying to get back there now. Yeah, FanDuel single entry captain, and what type of bill? 4-2 or 5-1? Tim, that's for you. FanDuel single entry captain, and then Do you prefer 4-2 or a 5-1 build?
I'd probably go 4-2.
Okay.
I still like Cousins quite a bit at MVP, just because he's going to be very, very contrarian.
Got it. I mean, I don't mind that call at all. I'm trying to look. Richie Small says, is Perine the better receiver out of the backfield? I'm going to say yes. This is also from Richie Smalls. He was asking, was there any interest in Travis at captain? And we did talk about that, Richie. Like, if you, especially for large field GPP, I've got interest. And I think Tim has some light interest if he was probably multi-entering. But Tim, you're going single entry or 3-entry max at the most, right?
Yeah, that's what I pretty much always do.
Okay. All right, got it. I'm hopping down. I know Tim answered one of the questions. This is from Flying Armbar on FanDuel. Kelsey versus Worthy versus Rice, last spot.
Yeah, I saw that question. I've been struggling with that one. It's pretty close. Rice is technically the better play.
Yeah.
See, I'm just not as high with Rice on FanDuel, but I think I might try to like stream Kelsey here, so they might force feed him a TD in this matchup. So I might I'll go Kelsey.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Let's see here. I think that's all of the questions, Tim. Ironically. And we are about 3 minutes away. So, guys, if you have any other questions, please throw those in there, and we'll be happy to take those. Prop shop. If anybody from the prop shop is watching, I'm so sorry. I was out and about a little bit, and I didn't even get my Sunday night card to them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little 3-pick in there for them right now, Tim, so that we have something to sweat. And Tim, what I've been doing for a lot of these big games, I've been playing second half stuff. Like I just kind of wait, and then I play a game script. And I mean, you know, we've been pretty close. I think we've actually hit 1 or 2 this season already, Tim, for like the late games. But that's what I've been doing. Just not really getting involved in the full game. And then playing some late stuff. This was coming from Beaner, $12.90 for FanDuel GPP, Perine or Steele, and then Kelsey or Mahomes at captain for FanDuel GPP. So it's kind of a 2 for 2 there, Tim. Two separate questions, but for one lineup. FanDuel GPP, Perine or Steele, and then Kelsey or Mahomes in the captain.
In the MVP, you said, for FanDuel?
Correct.
All right, so I would definitely put Mahomes in MVP. And then you probably have to go to Steele. I'd probably rather play Steele anyway.
Yep. Same here. I agree 100%. So I think, let me see. I'm making sure we don't have any questions. Okay, there we go. Tim, we have no more questions. That's going to wrap up our Sunday pre-lock show. And hopefully we've helped people be able to pull in some data points. Hopefully we help you make a little bit of money. We've definitely had some success stories from the Sunday night crew. And Tim, you're always welcome to come in and hang out with the Sunday night crew. We love you, brother. And thank you, Flying Armbar, for the kind words. I'm Chief. That's Tim. This has been Showdown Pre-Lock. We'll see you back here next Sunday.